I just told Maria that I'm having a hard time, and she hit record immediately.
I was focused on too many things at once.
I said, I'm really kind of going through it right now. And she said, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. And hit record. She's really trying to monetize my trauma. Welcome back. This is episode 7 of the Talking in Spirals podcast, where we are, you guessed it, talking in spirals about a few things that we're really passionate about, involving like sustainability, slow living, that sort of thing. You already know. And this is somehow episode 7. We are really intensely chaotic tonight, so this one will be fun.
I'm shocked that it's already episode 7.
Yeah, how did that happen? I've had a blast.
It's been a great time. We've covered a lot of really good topics, and I can't wait to see what we do in season 2, what we cover.
Yeah, a little teaser for season 2. We're definitely doing a season 2, and we will keep you posted on the timeline and some more details about that. It's in the works, guys. It's coming.
Even if you didn't ask for it, it's coming.
Nobody asked for this.
Uh, so what is your hyperfixation for this week?
That's a great question. At the beginning of this recording session, Maria asked me how I was doing. I said, not great, and she immediately hit record. So,
I'm so sorry.
you know, she knows what the people want. No, I'm doing okay. I ran into some financial troubles this month, which I'm fine, Mom, by the way. Thanks for asking. I just wanted to touch on the fact that we're both freelancers, and this is kind of like something that happens sometimes. You never know when money is coming in and when it's leaving, and you'd think that we'd be better at figuring this out by now, but that's like having a small business and being your own boss sort of thing. So I kind of ran into some expenses this month that I didn't see coming, and my business finances needed some adjustment. So I say all this to say that my current hyperfixation is something I am referring to as relentless resourcefulness. And I think it's something that all of us could use a little bit more of in our lives. I'm basically referring to just like making things work when it doesn't seem like they're going to work. And this ties into things that we've talked about on this podcast a bunch, like using what we already have, budgeting, spending less money, being resourceful, and whether it comes to food or house stuff or borrowing or thrifting or swapping when finances might be a little bit tighter. And I was thinking about this last night. When money is a little tighter, you can kind of choose to get really, really stressed about it and not feel good about it. Or you can choose to look at the bright side and think it's really cool that I have the skill set to be able to make things work even when it's tough. I know that I can always find a way and I will always be okay because I haven't had a regular paycheck in years, and I have no interest in going back to like a regular 9 to 5 job where I have a paycheck coming in all the time. I would rather just figure it out when times are tough. And so that's exactly what I've been doing, and I'm kind of good at it. And I think that's something to be proud of.
That is definitely something to be proud of. I am so sorry that you are going through a hard time. I feel for you. It is not easy being a freelancer and not knowing where your next paycheck is coming from.
Yeah, it's honestly not that hard. It's honestly not that bad of a time. It's just a matter of like, I mean, you can relate to this if you're a freelancer. I know Maria can relate to this, but it's just when things don't line up, like the dates when money leaves the account and then you're waiting on a payout from a brand. And we talked about this in our content creation episode.
Yes.
Like some of these deals can be net 90, like 90 days after the contract is completed, you will be paid. And that's a long time to wait. So it's definitely not for everyone. So yeah, being really resourceful when it comes to money and resources, which is a silly thing to say, resourceful with resources. But
No, I love that.
yeah, having fun in a way that doesn't cost a lot of money and making really simple meals, etc. And it's actually really enjoyable. Is that weird to say? Like I'm enjoying it a little bit.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It's forcing you to live more sustainably, but because you enjoy living sustainably, it like isn't negative or like doesn't feel negative.
Yeah, I 100% get it. I think you hit the nail on the head, but it's also just, me, but
Sure.
I think Maria and I are both like pretty intense with this stuff. Like I could be spending money now, but I'm choosing not to. And, like I would be fine either way. I'm just choosing to be a little bit more mindful and on a budget. And Maria and I both tend to do things more extreme than necessary.
True.
Like Maria saying she wants to declutter, so she's going to declutter 2,000 items from her house. Like for me, I'm like, oh, I've got more bills than I expected. Let's see how long I can make this $100 bill last. 30 days, maybe?
So no luck or say bread oven for you is what I'm getting at.
No. But the truth is,
One day.
it just puts things into perspective that like I don't actually need that right now. Like I can make bread without it, but
True.
it's on the list of one-day purchases.
I am a bad influence because I would say, yes, you do need it. You do need it now.
Well, I look at your bread and I'm like, maybe I do.
There's just something about, I think it's like the really heavy cast iron lid that closes it off
Mhm.
that like my other Dutch oven didn't have.
You ride for Le Creuset.
Yes, we switched over to their cookware last year, I think, and all of the pieces that we have look brand new. They're like indestructible. They also have a lifetime warranty, which is part of why they're so expensive. So even if I was to kill a piece, I mean, it would be replaced.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely something to put on the list of long-term pieces to invest in.
I'll let you know if I see one secondhand.
Oh my gosh, please. That would be amazing. But
You might just like get one showing up at your door one day.
oh, don't say that. I'll cry. Well, that's my hyperfixation. I feel like it was really chaotic the way that I said it, but I hope that you understand what I mean. I just mean like getting creative with the things that we have and, just my normal lifestyle except way more intense cuz it just puts things into perspective.
I love it.
I sometimes spend money I don't need to be spending. I sometimes buy things I don't need to have. Like I have things in my house that I don't use, that sort of thing. So, relentless resourcefulness would have been a great name for this podcast.
And we think about that now on episode 7.
New podcast coming soon. Relentless resourcefulness is great. If anyone steals that, I will be mad. Anyways, we had to take a brief intermission because there were gunshots outside of Maria's house.
We need to move.
It's honestly not funny, but it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny to have to take a break because of gunshots, right? Depends on how you look at it. It's happened to me while we're doing this podcast. There's gunshots outside.
You need to move.
It's actually happened to us both. That's crazy. We both need to move. Anyways, so what is your hyperfixation?
So my hyperfixation has recently been physical resets. I'm sure you've seen a lot of the Sunday resets that are trending or Friday resets, Saturday resets. I have found that as of recent, physically resetting my space, cleaning every inch of every surface, and just making sure things are back where they belong has been really helping reset my mind. And they've just really helped me physically and mentally during a really hard and really busy work time. So I don't know about you, but I really like cleaning. So
I mean, this is why we're friends because we're both mentally ill.
True.
I love cleaning. I have never related to anything more than you saying that like aggressively cleaning is the way that you clear your head. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to judge you. I just personally don't understand how somebody could feel mentally okay in a space that is a wreck.
Yeah.
Personally.
I could never thrive in those conditions.
Like yes, I have an OCD diagnosis. Thank you for asking. But I personally I just can't. Like, if I have things to do and I have a list of things that need to get done and the house is a wreck or my workspace is a wreck or there's like massive piles of chores, like, there's just no way that anything else is getting done because my physical space is a representation of my brain in a way.
Yep. I'm the exact same way. If our house is messy or if like I didn't make the bed first thing in the morning, I'm a disaster.
Oh my God. The fact that people live their lives not making their bed, it must be so nice to not be so unhinged because I'm not a functioning person if the bed is not made.
Yeah.
If you do not make your bed in the morning, try it for 1 week, make your bed first thing in the morning, and tell me it hasn't completely changed your like mental state. Because I didn't used to do it when I was younger. I never did it. I didn't care. And like it completely changed my life. It sounds ridiculous, but it did.
It's just like a simple thing. It takes less than a minute and it almost like starts your day off the right way.
Yes. 100%. There's a very famous speech about that. I think it's a military speech, but they're basically kind of going over how making your bed sets you up for success. That's just one example, but I mean on the subject of you resetting your whole house and resetting your physical space. Yeah, it's the best. And also, I like watching it too. Like I love watching people reset their house. Like when you post a Sunday reset, I get so excited. I just love to watch you clean. Is that weird? I don't know. Apparently not, because it's a big
I
trend.
hate making them. It's a big trend. I hate making them though.
It's a big pain to make them because I make them too. It takes hours. I mean, it's basically just cleaning plus filming. It takes forever.
Yeah, I'm doing one on Friday. I have an ad to film and I'm doing like the whole reset. The ad that I'm doing is part of the reset, but I'm doing a whole separate video,
Mhm.
not paid, as a reset. And I'm like already dreading it, but I know that I'm going to feel so much better when my house is reset.
I know. And it's kind of satisfying to watch. Even you cleaning your own house.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, wow, look what it could be.
Yes.
You know? It's very satisfying.
Yeah. I also want to throw it in there too that I've started resetting my house on Fridays instead of Sundays. So then a clean house for the weekend. And that has been a game changer.
That is so funny that you say that because I literally just saw a video of somebody talking about how why is everyone doing a Sunday reset? Like, are you living in filth on the weekends? Because that's when I really want to enjoy my space is the
Yes.
weekend.
Yes, exactly. And again, I am insanely grateful that I'm in the position where I'm able to do that for 3 or 4 hours on a Friday because I work from home and I'm doing it for work filming. But
Hmm.
if you have the capacity to do it on Fridays, definitely recommend.
Yeah, and then you're doing your laundry and you can wear things you actually want to wear on the weekend, you know? If you're actually going out and doing stuff, you probably have something that you like and it's like dirty at the end of the week and yeah.
Yeah.
That's just one example. Also, like is there any better feeling than climbing into clean sheets?
Oh, there's not. There is no better feeling.
It is elite. This is how you know that you're not 22 anymore. This is like the stuff that I live for. Like taking a shower, putting on my nicest, cleanest pajamas, and then getting into a freshly made bed with crisp, like deliciously clean sheets. Like, wow,
Yes. Yes.
immaculate.
Completely.
It's the best.
I completely agree. And we've started also washing our bed every week instead of every other week or sometimes once a month because life happens.
Even the sheets you washed only once a month?
I used to only do it once a month, but we started doing it once a week.
Wow, I'm just shaming you on the podcast. I'm like, wow, that's disgusting.
Pretty regularly wash them like every 2 to 3 weeks, but there were definitely some times where it was like a month.
Oh, 100%. Sometimes it like 100% falls through the cracks.
Yeah.
But now that I keep it on the schedule, this might be embarrassing to admit, but I'm going to admit it anyways. Let's just put it out there.
I think I know what you're going to say, and I'm going to also agree and have the exact same thing. Go ahead.
Because we talked about it before, I'm curious if you know what I'm about to say, but I have a Notion page. Maria knows this about me. I'm like gonna release just how insane I am. Like just how insane I am on the internet. I have a Notion page. It is called When Did I Last? Okay? Okay, stay with me here. This Notion page is my brain because my brain just short circuits, it like doesn't work, so I had to put it online. I had to make it digital. It's for those of us with ADHD. This list is like everything that you could think of that you have no clue. Like think about it right now. When's the last time you had your tires rotated on your car?
In November, and I only know that because I just went to get my car inspected and they asked if I needed one and I said no.
Okay, well, I hate that you immediately knew that because it ruins my whole point.
I'm sorry. I don't know.
Let me ask you another one. Okay, random house tasks. When is the last time that you changed your air filters?
I also know the answer to that one because we do it every 3 months on the first of the month.
God,
So
you're killing me. You're not a good candidate.
what I was gonna say, I don't have the same sort of Notion template that you do, but I have a like, when do I do it?
Okay, yeah.
So like the first of every month and every 3 months is a change the air filter and then do like all my other first of the month tasks. So we're both crazy, just in different ways.
Okay, but that still stands to prove my point. You know the answer because you keep track of it.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so that's why. Okay, so point proven. I've never done anything wrong and I'm not crazy. I don't know the last time I got my teeth cleaned because I currently don't have dental insurance. It's a whole thing. Anyways, so I have it on my when did I last.
Also, same.
Yeah, right. I have it on my when did I last everything, and I put the date of when I did it. There's a list. Like, when's the last time I washed my mattress cover? Like, that's the stuff that I like just don't think to do. And if you put it in there and you look at it and you're like, whoa, it's been a while, then you'll do it. If things like changing my Brita filter, I would have no clue unless it was in this Notion template. Having
And in one spot.
Yes, changing the oil in my car, stuff like that. I'm trying to think of like other examples of things that are on there. I could quite literally pull it up. I don't know why I'm racking my brain for this. Like, okay, my razor blade. Do you ever think, like for shaving, like how often do you change the blade? I have it on my when did I last?
I don't have that on mine.
I have it on there.
I just like change it when it gets dull.
Me too. But sometimes I'll be like, why are my legs like a forest? And then I'll look at the thing and it'll be like, you haven't changed the blade in months. Like, so it's just really helpful
Oof.
if you are an ADHD person. I don't even know how we got on this topic. We're truly talking in spirals. But if you have an ADHD brain, such as myself, you should really start a template called When Did I Last and just put all the things in there that you need to keep track of, like things that you have to do as an adult. If you have a business, you have to file your taxes quarterly. Like that's something. When did I last? When did I last get a pap smear? I don't know. All of these things, you know?
Yeah, I should switch my template around because mine right now is just like April 1st. I know I need to do my air filter. Pepper gets her pill. My cutting boards get done. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, pet stuff, yeah, things like that. Like I've been making a lot of videos about this, but I've been like cleaning my appliances,
Yeah, that's on there too.
like cleaning the filter in my dishwasher, cleaning my washing machine, things like that. Like that's something you should be doing every 3 months. And if you have it in your little template, then
You won't forget?
yeah, because it'll just leave my brain. If it's not written down, it doesn't exist.
True.
And I think as you get older, if you have ADHD or anything of the sort, then like you just know yourself better over time and you just realize, like, okay, I have to keep track of this stuff because otherwise, goodbye. That thought is gone forever.
Yeah. Well, that was a tangent and a half.
Yeah, I don't even know how we got on that. How do we get on that?
Sunday resets, Friday resets.
Anyways, Sunday resets, Friday resets. Like, I love watching them and I love making them and I love watching yours. I'd love to watch you. I can't wait to see you clean your house. Post notifications on.
When are you doing one next? Because I feel like I haven't seen one from you in a while, and I also want to see one of yours.
I'll tell you why I haven't done one in a while. Because my house is a wreck, as is my like whole life. So yeah, we're overdue.
That's like the perfect time to do
Yeah,
it.
we're overdue. I need to do one. You're right. I should put it on my when did I last.
There we go.
It needs to be addressed in the last episode. I let out Maria sends me the episodes after they're edited because the queen edits the episodes. I don't do it. I'm the personality hire. We know this. She puts them in the Dropbox and I listen to them and I tell her great job every time because she does a great job. And in the last one, I let out an insane moan. I don't even know what the context of it was, but I was like, I'm going to blow the speakers out. Like, I'm not going to do the noise again. But I was just feeling uncomfortable in the moment. I think we were being vulnerable. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. But I'm really sorry.
Do you want me to take it out?
No, I don't care. It's kind of funny. You guys know what you signed up for.
The chaos. We're so sorry. Not
Right.
really, though.
Not really. So I won't do that this time.
Maybe no one will notice.
Oh, they will. I'm cool with it. So, what's new in your life? Like, what's going on in your life right now?
Yikes.
Can you talk about the.
I can't. Not yet.
Well, I think I can say Maria's been working on a secret project. We can tease it like that.
There's a secret project in the works. It's chaos. You might have an idea of what's going on if you've seen my homemade restock videos of remaking everything I've ever made. Yeah, there's a big project going on. I'm a hot mess. It's fine.
Clearly, I am too. Did you just hear like the 20-minute ramble I just went on about nothing?
That's okay. I'm also a little stressed out, and this is going to segue into our topic for today. But I was gifted a snowblower, an electric snowblower from a brand, and I had a 2-video just collaboration planned with them. The first video of an unboxing, and the second one testing the snowblower on snow. But We haven't had snow since the last week in January in Buffalo, and I got the snowblower in mid-February. So, I'm a little stressed because I can't finish the second video of testing out the snowblower, the electric snowblower. Hashtag climate change.
The brand has to understand.
They do, and they've been fine with it. They're fine with me, like, waiting till the end of the year, but I had hoped to get it all done and just so I didn't have to worry about it in February, and then it just stopped snowing and hasn't snowed, which is insanely unusual for Buffalo
Yeah.
in February and March. We've had a single snowstorm this entire season. The snowstorm was so bad that my husband had off of school for the whole week, but we haven't had snow since then. It's crazy.
Well, on the one hand, you're stoked that you're not being snowed in, but on the other hand, you're like, this might be indicative of not living
Yes.
on a livable planet.
Oh, there it is.
So today we're going to be talking about climate change, everyone's favorite topic.
I was doing research today in preparation for this episode so I could come with actual facts and stats. And I discovered that the EPA has a ton of resources on their website talking about what climate change means for each individual state. So I have seen the difference in precipitation, but I did not recognize that it's also going to mean excessive flooding in the spring and the fall. So that's something specific. I'm sure that happens everywhere else too, but that's something specific for New York that we see. Not to mention, there's various issues like the increases in Lyme disease. I think it was last year or the year before we felt the effects of the Canadian wildfires. We were getting literal smoke over the border. The last year or 2 years, I've really started to notice the actual impacts of climate change here, and I'm sure that you have also felt them in Florida too.
Yeah, in preparation for this episode, I didn't even know where to begin because I live in South Florida, and I'm sure everyone who's listening is very much aware that South Florida is already very much feeling the effects of climate change and very much will continue to be probably the most impacted state in terms of certain aspects of climate change. Not forever, but at this current moment in time, so much of the state is below sea level, or I mean, Florida is very much impacted by climate change. We get hit by storms, some of which are full on intense hurricanes, and some of which are just random storms, not during hurricane season. This is a completely random example, but just a couple of months ago, I think it was either December or January, we got hit by a really intense storm out of nowhere, obviously not during hurricane season. Completely caught everybody off guard. Everybody lost power. It, just for a day or two, but that didn't used to happen. Storms didn't used to come outside of hurricane season that would have absolutely been considered at least a tropical storm if they were within the window of hurricane season. And that's getting increasingly common in my experience. We are also experiencing something that we call sunny day flooding. Do you know what that is? I think the name gives it away. But it's essentially where it just floods. Just starts to flood with no rain. And that is indicative of the impacts of climate change.
Yeah, I also think it's important to talk about coral bleaching.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have like reefs near where you live?
Yeah, we're actually one of the best places to dive in the world, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, I live in Palm Beach County in South Florida for anyone who's familiar. So, technically, when you look it up, it says that Key Largo is the dive capital of the US, but Palm Beach County, specifically Jupiter, Florida, which is very close to where I live, that is definitely up there. That's definitely one of the top 5 places to dive in the US. We have a ton of reefs, and we're absolutely susceptible to coral bleaching and reef death. We're seeing it firsthand. I have a lot of friends that are involved in coral restoration, a few friends that have their own nonprofits, and then also just some larger organizations that are quite prominent here because it is a thing that we're seeing firsthand, very much witnessing the death of these reefs in front of our eyes. Being that most of my friends are water people, either surfers or divers or swimmers or boaters or fishermen, it's very much right in our face. It's very much something that we deal with on a very regular basis. There's no denying that this is happening. I don't know how there are people in Florida who want to deny that this is a thing. Again, like it's just so blatant. Last summer, water temperatures reached, let me look up the stats on this.
Last summer, I was traveling through South Florida and the Keys for our honeymoon, and we did a bunch of snorkeling, which was supposed to be all happy snorkeling, colorful fish, and sea turtles, and all of that. And it ended up being a very somber but also impactful experience because we went during the bleaching week. There were like a couple weeks where temperatures were so bad.
Yeah, that was in July of last year, July of 2023. The water in South Florida hit over 90 degrees Fahrenheit.
It felt like a hot tub. Can confirm.
Yeah, and that, I mean, I'm from Florida. I've lived all but 2 years of my life here in Florida, and I can safely say that, like, yes, it's hot here. I don't need to express that. This is unprecedented. The water being over 90 degrees is absolutely insane. And also, that was in July. That's not even typically the hottest month. You know, like August is very hot, July is very hot. But early on in summer to see water temperatures of over 90 degrees is insane. And the reef is very sensitive to temperature stress. The temperature of the water essentially just boils. I mean, I don't want to say boils because it's not technically boiling, but it essentially just bleaches and boils the reef. It was devastating. It continues to be devastating. And something that we wanted to talk about in this episode is climate anxiety, climate doom, dealing with the feelings that we have about the state of our environment and the state of our planet's well-being. And it's a really tricky topic because you never want to be throwing out all these very doom and gloom sort of stats, which is essentially what we've been doing this episode.
Which we swore we would not do with this podcast, so we're very sorry.
Well, on the one hand, people need to know.
Yeah.
Knowledge is the first line of defense. Education is the first line of defense when it comes to environmental protection, when it comes to everything, right? Having the information, getting the education, being aware of what's actually going on with the state of our planet is important.
I'm very curious. You said earlier about how you don't know how people in Florida don't recognize what's happening. Do they not physically see the coral reefs every day? So it's almost like out of sight, out of mind, where they just don't believe that it's happening because you're so close to it. How could you not?
You know, there's a lot. That's like opening a whole can of worms. There's a lot to dive into. No pun intended. When it comes to climate denial in Florida. There is a lot to dive into. And I never want to get overtly too political because that's not what this space is for. I am like a political person, but this space is more of like a kind of lighthearted, chatty space. But,
Yeah.
you know, politics are a part of life. Obviously, I'm never going to deny that. I'm never going to like hide my stance. You guys know very much the way that we vote. But I will say that the political climate in Florida has changed exponentially since 2020 when a lot of people, specifically from like the Northeast or states with stricter COVID laws, wanted to come to Florida because we had absolutely none. So that's been interesting. There's been an influx of climate denialists in my lived experience. I don't have a ton of statistics. I haven't really looked into the statistics of that. As a lifelong Floridian who grew up with environmentalist parents, it's devastating to see how many people move to this state. Statistically speaking, over 1,000 people a day move to Florida. 1,000 people a day.
That's nuts.
Right.
How is Florida not exploding with people?
It is. The cost of living is insane.
Oh, yeah, that is true.
Approximately 1,218 people move to Florida each day, assuming a constant state of migration throughout the year.
Yikes.
And this is where it gets tricky because there's a lot of people who very much think that nobody should be moving to Florida and that we need to keep people out. And it's just not that clear of an issue. On the one hand, I am of the belief that, like, don't come here if you don't want to take responsibility for a lot of the ecological disaster that we're seeing take place here.
Yeah.
Like, as a lifelong Floridian, I feel very, very protective of the environment here. And I've spoken about this a little bit more lately in my content. Like, I wrote a newsletter about how just what it's like to live here in a state where my beliefs are not often represented politically or socially.
That newsletter was really good, by the way.
Thank you. I really enjoyed writing it. If you're not subscribed to both our newsletters, go subscribe. Shameless self promo. I feel very strongly about protecting this state as it is going to be one of the, if no, it is, it's the most impacted, the most overtly impacted state by climate change at this point in time. I feel very protective of Florida. I feel very much like a responsibility to stay here and push back. And that's a pretty interesting lived experience to know that you live in a place where your values and ethics are not always represented and not always commonplace. I want to protect my home state from the dangers of climate change, not to mention a lot of like human rights things. But that's for another episode. And it feels very discouraging. It does. And you never want to be accused of promoting negativity or doom when it comes to the state of the world. I think Maria and I both have been very outspoken about how we need to be optimists, we need to look forward, we need to be very productive in the work that we do in terms of like getting the message across, advocating for solutions, getting involved, etc. But I think there is space for just holding almost a sense of grief, just kind of like allowing it to suck, just kind of allowing it to be like,
Allowing you to feel the feels.
right, like allowing yourself to think, wow, this is unfortunate and this sucks right now. And I do believe there's solutions, and I do believe that Florida is worth fighting for, and I do believe that there's something to be saved here and there's a potential for us to save it, and we can't give up. But it also can feel really discouraging, and I go through phases of feeling very, very discouraged because I don't live in a bubble where people vote the way that I do in protection of people and planet. And that is really apparent living my day-to-day life here. My community is incredibly strong and feels the same way that I do, but overall that's not the consensus of my state, and that sucks. And that's okay to say that, I think. So hopefully you guys get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of feel similar, and I don't think I've ever talked about this because New York is a Democratic state, swayed Democratic because of New York City. If you look at an actual map, most of the rural areas are Republican, and only the cities are Democrat.
That's the case across the country, though. That's the case like across the country.
Yeah, so to some degree, I understand with you when it comes to you fighting for the planet and then having climate deniers at the back door, because that's how it is for me too. It's hard doing what we do every day, being more activists in our community when we have climate deniers that are living next door to us. And it's really hard. I mean, we Buffalo does not have as extreme climate change impacts as you do in Florida. I mean, we have high highs and low lows. Like we experience the heat waves. We don't have coral reefs that show the heat waves, but we experience the heat waves. We also experience 7 feet of snow, which is becoming more and more consistent every winter. Every winter we have a huge storm. And it used to be that there was a storm in the early 2000s and a storm in the early 2010s. Those were like the two big storms that, at least during my lifetime, that we dealt with. And now it's every single year. We have 5 feet, 6 feet, 7 feet of snow. The whole country last year was a heat wave. So I think everybody has experienced some sort of climate change no matter where they live. What I'm getting at is it's important to focus on like what you can control. We can't control the weather. We can't.
You are telling me that Joe Biden is not controlling the weather with a remote control?
I'm so sorry to report he is not.
Yes, he is.
Oh.
Listen, I think that the whole point we're trying to get across is that this is very difficult. So this is tricky. This is challenging. There's a lot of emotions involved. If this is something that you're passionate about, if you care about the well-being of people and planet, it is very discouraging to hear all of this. The most obvious statement ever, but it needs to be said. Like, I think sometimes within the climate optimist movement, we push so hard for optimism that it's almost like this form of spiritual bypassing where it's kind of like
Yeah.
just toxic positivity. Like everything is fine. No, it's fine. Like it is okay to feel grief and sadness and disappointment and all of the feelings.
Yeah.
Because the truth is that this stuff this is not a casual situation.
No.
Like this is pretty much as high stakes as it can possibly get, and we need to start taking it seriously, and we need to start taking it seriously a couple generations ago, honestly. But the truth is that it's not too late. It's absolutely not too late. There are things that can be done. There are actions that can be taken in order to advocate for a livable planet, even amongst these very devastating headlines. So, we wanted to kind of go over some of the ways that we combat climate anxiety, and we made a list.
I was thinking a lot earlier today about how I personally deal with climate anxiety. And to be honest, and I'm going to speak for Brennan when I say this too, is that we don't exactly know. There are times that both of us have really struggled with climate anxiety and have not really been the most optimistic when it comes to climate change. And that's okay. We are here with you. We feel for you. We understand. We're going through what you are going through. We understand. I think what I have started to focus on is focusing on things that I can control. I can control my personal consumption, my personal, sometimes overconsumption. I can control the amount of plastic that comes in and out of my house. I can control my trash. And I think taking a step back and focusing on the things that you individually can control can kind of help you bring peace to your own mind and peace to yourself to know that you are doing things that can have an impact. And I know both of us have said this before, individual actions do have an impact and can have an impact. So that's definitely number one on how I deal with climate anxiety. But again, neither of us are experts in this. It is a very, very hard thing to do. I think almost all environmentalists in this space struggle with it, but focusing on what you control, what you can control is really helpful.
Yeah, that's why both of us really do advocate a lot for individual action, probably to the extent that some people have an issue with it because there's a lot of arguments within sustainability and environmentalist groups about whether or not we should advocate for personal individual action over, community organizing, sort of large scale action. And there's a big divide about that. And I personally hate that there's a big divide about that. The answer is so obvious, in my opinion. It's like, we need both. Individual action absolutely has an impact. Let's take the straw, the classic straw for the example. At the end of the day, a bunch of people are still going to use straws, right? That's probably not going to change. Like, people are still going to be using plastic straws. However, 5 to 10 years ago, we were not seeing people bring metal straws, glass straws, rubber straws, whatever, into coffee shops. We were not seeing people say, no straw, please. That's almost normal now. People bringing their own cup, like that is a thing. There wasn't even a framework for people to understand that 10 years ago. So that absolutely has an impact.
Yeah.
And that is an individual action that becomes a collective action, that becomes a cultural shift. So individual action absolutely has an impact. I will fight anyone who says, wow,
That
it's
was
so,
aggressive.
oh my God.
Unhinged.
Keep it in. I will argue with you all day that individual action has an impact. At the same time, community organizing, legislative changes, all of that is very, very, very important. Plugging into a community, getting what you need passed, advocating for corporations to have less power in this country and therefore less ability to destroy our environment, that is powerful too. That is important too. We need to be doing all of it within reason, right? The world does not exist on your shoulders. It is not your individual responsibility to save the planet. It is everybody's collective responsibility. That starts with your individual action. And nobody's asking you to reinvent the wheel. But if there are small individual changes that you can make within your own unique set of circumstances that work for you, please do that. And also please vote. Like, you can do both.
Register to vote if you have not registered yet.
Come on, guys, please register to vote. Go to a city council meeting, have a conversation about things that are impacting your particular community. All of this is valid. And the thing is, whatever form of activism and advocacy fits into your life, that is what you're meant to be doing. Maria and I have talked about this a lot. Like, our advocacy, our activism really aligns with sharing the ways that we make sustainable swaps and changes within our own homes, our own personal lives. That's kind of our thing. There are other creators who feel called to talk more about community organizing. And I love that. All things have a role to play and all things are important. And that's okay. So, getting involved in a way that feels sustainable for you, that feels like not too daunting, that engages you, that gets you fired up, that gets you excited, that's where you start.
Yes, and that perfectly ties in with point number 2 of how you deal with climate anxiety is avoid overloading and know that you don't have to do everything. If you focus too much on individual action, but then also are calling your Congress people and representatives every day, but then are also organizing and dealing with community events, and then also volunteering and doing all of these different things and having your hand in so many different baskets and climate issues and spaces, you're going to burn out so fast. And I'm sure we can both tell you from experience that you're going to burn out.
Speaking from experience.
So avoid overloading and know that you don't have to do it all. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to speak out on every single issue. You don't have to volunteer with every single issue related to climate change. You can only do what you are capable of doing, and that's okay because we need everybody involved in some way, even if it's the smallest way, even if you take public transport 1 day a week, we need that community involvement.
Right. It really is about imperfect sustainability, which is our next episode topic. Stay tuned. So, I wanted to recommend a movement and a book that I maybe hypocritically haven't actually read yet, but I need to because I was feeling really discouraged. The Climate Optimist Handbook. If you guys are unfamiliar, Climate Optimist is an organization that focuses on just that, climate optimism. And they do incredible work. I'm very, very, very inspired by the things that they do. There's a Climate Optimist Handbook, which is exactly what it sounds like. That book I've heard nothing but good things about. And when I start to feel climate doom, it gets recommended to me and it's absolutely on the list. I will be going to the library and seeing if it is there very soon. But it's basically kind of the idea that you can shift the narrative on climate change so you can act from a place of excitement instead of fear. Surrounding yourself with people who think this way is really important. Again, also, like we said, holding space for not feeling that way all the time, but that is the ultimate goal. Like, I feel very, very passionate, especially even just with building the community that you and I have. Like, I feel passionate about the fact that there are people who care, actually, hundreds of thousands that follow us alone. Like the numbers are there. Young people are actually more and more engaged in issues like this one than generations before. And they're voting and they're speaking up, and that's incredibly inspiring. That's amazing. So check out climateoptimist.com. You can read about what climate optimism is, like, just as an ideology, and you can also look at ways to get involved. There's a whole section on the website called Awareness plus Action equals Optimism, and it says it can only exist at the intersection of grounded awareness and empowered action. Awareness will trigger your will to act, but only continuous action will allow your optimism to sustain. And it's basically just a mission to shift the narrative on climate change. And I think that that's extremely powerful. I think it needs to be more mainstream and everybody should look into it. So it's something to keep in mind.
I agree. I'm adding it to my TBR. I will be reading it.
Okay, we need to do a book club episode.
I'm down. I'm always down to read. So this kind of brings us into the last big way that we deal with climate anxiety, and it's to just take a break from climate news. So go get out into nature, go hiking, biking, something outside, go watch a movie, or my favorite way to take a break from climate news is to read a book. Maybe not one on climate optimism when you're dealing with climate anxiety. Maybe pick like fantasy or something. But that's how I deal with climate anxiety. I like to go read a book and escape to a different world. What is your key thing to take a break from climate news?
Honestly, I'm a big podcast fan, so I love a lighthearted podcast.
Makes sense. listen to our lighthearted podcast. Maybe not this episode.
Yeah, right? We're like the coral reefs are bleached. People just crying on a nature walk. That's also my vibe. But honestly, I think it's not just climate, right? Like, headlines are horrifying right now. There's a lot of terrible things going on around the world right now. We don't need to list them. Like, you guys already know.
True.
I'm not going to sit here and be like, here's all the issues with Florida with climate change. Like, you already know about sea level rise. You already know about the hurricanes. Like, I don't need to explain them. You already know. Having an outlet that is politically neutral, that is just for the sake of just having a little nice distraction or a good time, I have found that to be incredibly productive and allow me to be a better person, both mentally, physically, all of the above, like show up better when I do choose to show up for the causes that I care about. I have that break and then I'm able to be more present. So, what Maria is talking about with the book, going outside, for me, as I've expressed on this podcast before, like I have gotten into working out. Didn't see it coming, but it did happen. And it's a really great break for my brain, honestly. Not reinventing the wheel here. I'm like, wow, did you know that it can help with your anxiety if you work out? Like, everybody's like, yes. Yeah, we know.
I had no idea.
But that's just one example. Like, having something to do for yourself that is not tied up in trying to make the world a better place.
Take a break. You deserve it.
Go for a bike ride, listen to a podcast, binge watch a stupid TV show. Like, it's fine. And I know this may sound crazy to some people. They're going to be like, yeah, I already do all that. Like, you're weird for having to give yourself permission. But a lot of us, like, really got caught up in all of this stuff and kind of made it our whole personalities. Myself, for example.
Ditto.
And it feels really good to take a step back and be like, my ethics and values can exist while I also chill.
And I always have to tell myself that if I take the evening off and watch a dumb TV show or spend the whole night reading a book, the world is not going to change overnight. I'm not going to miss something by not participating as an active member of society for a night.
Protect your peace, guys.
Protect your peace.
Yeah, that's the moral of this whole episode. This stuff is not easy to think about, to work towards fixing. It's not easy. It's all consuming. It's very upsetting. It's okay. That truth can exist simultaneously alongside the truth that it's not too late. There's work to be done. Let's do it.
And we are struggling right along with you. Before we hit record on this episode, we were joking about how we don't really even know how to deal with climate anxiety. Your favorite climate influencers and content creators are also struggling with this too. So if it's something that weighs heavily on you, you are not alone.
Yeah, you're really not alone. And if you guys have any tips or tricks or ways that you've dealt with climate anxiety or climate doom, we'd love to hear about them. So feel free to message us and let us know. We can share it on a future episode.
Thank you to everybody who has listened thus far. This episode was quite a heavy one.
This one was a wild ride. I'm really sorry. I think I went off the rails a bit, but you know, you guys know what you signed up for. Thanks for being here. We love you more than words could ever say. And I mean that from the bottom of my sad little heart.
See you in a couple weeks.
See you in a couple weeks.
Bye. Oh, we said it at the same time. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna leave it in. It's fine.
Bye. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Real chatty tonight, huh?
I'm friggin' broken today. I'm Maria.
That's it? Try that one more time. Just introduce yourself. Just say your name.
I need a moment.
Okay, take your moment. Wow.
Oh, God.
We chose the wrong industry to get into, didn't we? We both did.